What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, Joker back again once again, and today, people, today we are diving back into the last week's This Week at Bungie. We've already touched on it a little bit, talking about the Divinity nerf, and you can see that in our last video. But there are more things that I thought should be talked about. Different weapon buffs and different weapon nerfs, things like that. And you know what? I gotta say, looking at this, I am pretty hopeful for Destiny eventually maybe kinda sorta turning itself around, but I mean, isn't that always the case? We always see a list of buffs and nerfs and patches and we're like, are we the one update away from it actually being good? Which, I mean, I think is half of Destiny's charm. You never know what you're going to get. For as negative as a lot of people like to pretend my opinion about Destiny 2 is, I sit here looking at a lot of these changes with hope and, dare I say, cautious optimism. In a lot of ways, the content of Destiny 2 has gotten much better since the new management took the helm of Destiny 2. And I've always said, as I've outlined, as I've praised several times in the past, Witch Queen was a fantastic expansion, carried in large part by the palette cleansing change that was the legendary campaign. Season of Risen was also great, the strongest season to ever launch alongside a mainline DLC, and I think even saying it like that is a disservice to Season of the Risen, as Season of the Risen is overall one of the stronger campaigns. PsyOps missions might not be new strikes, but they are delightful breaks from GM Nightfalls, and Horde Mode, not Horde Mode 357 is all you get after you've played the story. So monotonous. In fact, if I was to be a little more self-indulgent, I would say the only thing I disliked about Season of the Risen was the price tag. Season of the Risen really felt like it should have been bundled with the campaign, not a separate mode. Kind of like Forsaken's post-game, where you get ready to fight Riven, or Taken King with the Taken War. But I digress. Destiny has its ups, Destiny has its downs, it's probably one of the most frustrating games ever, and right now it's probably one of the most frustrating places it's ever been. Because with Destiny 2 Year 1, with Shadowkeep, with Beyond Light, you could objectively say the game was bad. Oh sure, at the time people would be like, Joker! They would shit their dick, get their panties in a knot, and make it my problem. Anyways, you could say Destiny 2 Year 1, Shadowkeep, Beyond Light were objectively bad, and people would hate you for it, but it would be true. With Witch Queen, that's not the case. We've talked a lot about the problems Destiny 2 has had since Season of the Haunted released, so I won't waste anyone's time by going over it in granular details. There's videos on that. If you want to see my opinion, click anywhere on this channel to see my opinion. But between story content that's largely better than anything else we've seen before, and a series of confusing, perplexing, awe-inspiring at how fucking stupid they are decisions, Destiny is in a weird place right now. I mean, after all, in PvP, for example, Bungie is sucking out all skill gap that somebody, maybe, once upon a time, could have argued existed. You know, in a game with 100% aim assist and bullet magnetism. Then there's the addition of skill-based matchmaking, which at least 50% of the community hates, at least according to straw polls that other content creators have put out there. And then you have the inevitable implosion of incentive if something doesn't change about the way that we get loot, or the way we experience the endgame, something, anything. And then you have quite possibly the stupidest thing that Bungie is doing. No, not the Divinity nerf. I mean, that's cute to joke about and be mock offended on the internet over, though I'm sure some people really are. And that is going in and taking a big fat fucking turd in the secret sauce. The thing that makes Destiny special. Its movement and its gunplay. I know, gas, shock, horror, lightning crackle, lightning crackle, lightning crackle. Who knew that the act of playing the game and the continued enjoyment of playing the game defaulted to how we play the game? I know, it's a fucking magical concept here. And yet, Bungie is fucking with it. Bungie keeps fucking with it, and I don't know why. We have skill-based matchmaking. We don't need in-air accuracy nerfs. We don't need slide nerfs. You get one or the other, not both, because when you have both, it's just a shitty experience all around. Oh, now I have laggy games where people are jumping around, teleporting around, and I can't even jump and shoot shit. I can't even slide and shoot shit. Go fuck yourself.
But Joker, if you hate Destiny so much, why do you play it?
Because even as frustrating as Destiny is, there's always that it's going to be better. In fact, that's the reason Destiny is so frustrating right now. Because you do have things like Witch Queen and Season of the Risen, but then you also have Season of the Haunted and its monotonous loot grind, and the current season and its monotonous loot grind, and the endgame being kind of and everything being dumbed down for casual players, and it being more and PvP being sacrificed on the altar of can't be bothered to get good, and it's just more And the whole dichotomy of that question pretends if all opinions on things are nice little neat yes and no answers that can be packaged into little boxes and served up on a platter. Simply put, I like being a Titan. I like the experience of being a Titan. You cannot find that experience in any other game, and I simply wish the content that I was being a Titan in was more rewarding and more engaging, and wasn't the same old copy and paste bullshit. I mean, what's wrong with that? But I digress. For all its faults, Destiny is always one good update away from being an amazing game. It's just so sad to see Bungie often makes changes that don't make sense. Or maybe they do make sense. They make sense if you're trying to dumb the game down for a casual audience. But is that really, ultimately, at the end of the day, what anyone wants? And while none of the updates in This Week at Bungie will turn Destiny into a 10 out of 10 game, it is a series of what us masochistic motherfuckers who keep playing this game like to say year after year after year, update after update after update, a series of steps in the right direction. A little cynical? Yes, but you can say changes are good while also pointing out the general overall state of the game is bad. Both can be true at the same time. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Weapons, I am your father. System design team, probably. Look, there's no denying that Destiny has some pretty sweet tools for Guardians to kick butt and take names with, from flashy purple magic of awesome to all-helpful divinity for support. There's a seemingly endless line of badass gadgets in our Guardians arsenal. Our weapons team has been talking a lot about different weapons changes and philosophies, and now they are back to tackle some of the most asked questions we get regarding
Pew pew power!
Cool, great, wonderful. You have an idea of why people actually enjoy playing this game. Now revert skill-based matchmaking and all the movement nerfs from sliding to inner accuracy and everything in between. Let the players have fun. Let us eat cake. And if you suck at the game, you suck at the game. There's no shame in that. I suck at the game. General questions. When the full auto setting arrives for all weapons, are you still going to keep full auto trigger system mod as an option? It's kinda nice to have the flexibility without making every weapon full auto. Actually, I was less interested in whether a mod was staying and more interested in how the full auto trigger system will affect Bloom once it's implemented properly as a feature. Anyways, Bungie says that there's no plans to remove the mod. The full auto trigger system mod isn't going anywhere. What will replace full auto trigger system on exotics that have it as a perk when the new accessibility features go live? We don't want to inadvertently make these stronger in PvP, so the goal here is to replace full auto with something fun and thematic, but more useful in PvE than PvP. Here are some examples. Traveler's Chosen, replace full auto trigger system in the Catalyst with Surplus. Wait a minute, I thought you said you were not making these stronger in PvP. Not criticizing the change is actually fantastic. But, does Bungie not know Surplus is kinda god tier? More so when it's combined with a weapon that's entire identity is about giving you back your ability energy. The synergy is going to be fucking wild. Vigilance Wing replaced full auto trigger system in the Catalyst with Ensemble. Ensemble improves handling and reload speed when allies are nearby. While not a huge change, I do like that Vigilance Wing now has this sort of jack of all trades, master of none vibe. If your team's dead, in very specific situations, you get perks. If your team's alive and they're right next to you, you get perks. Fun. No time to explain.
I don't even have time to explain why I don't have time to explain.
Replaced full auto trigger system with Feeding Frenzy. This is probably the only weapon where I'm like, But then again, No Time to Explain is already the king of Trials of Osiris PvP, so anything is going to make it better. I mean, this is already giving it better uptime, so even saying I'm saying to the king of Trials of Osiris getting better reload uptime. So that's like a but not like a You know what I mean? There's a difference. They next go on to talk about Divinity, and yes, there was the urge to pad out this video by including that entire video right here. But if you want to find that video, you can go ahead and, well, it was the last one we posted, but if you're a little, can't be bothered, maybe I will see if I can be bothered, I probably won't be able to be, and put that in the description below or something like that. Comments on kinetic weapon damage type in PvE. Say that 5 times fast. We are looking at kinetic damage type as opposed to slot changes sometime post Lightfall to make this a more interesting aspect of how weapons feel. So this is like a huge problem for me. I am so sick and fucking tired of how one-shot kinetic weapons like scout rifles, pulse rifles, hand cannons specifically feel like utter shit in PvE. Using anything other than an SMG or a special weapon in most encounters just feels fucking awful because of how long it takes to tear through a red health bar. It is so fucking dumb! And it's really no wonder why the meta is, generally speaking, waveframe grenade launchers and SMGs. Like, can you blame anyone? They just want to hold forward and kill things. But if you use anything that takes a modicum of thought or skill or performance or any of that, you are actively punished with it like taking forever to kill a drag, I would almost argue. And yes, this is being a little hyperbolic, but I think all kinetic weapons need like 100% damage buff in PvE. And if that's too much, then we take it back from there. But like, let's just buff everything and then see what happens. Yes, you're gonna invalidate some of the endgame. But who fucking cares? There's no reason to play the endgame right now anyways. So might as well like let people eat cake, let people experiment and try out, and let's, in this ignoregnum between expansions, figure shit out instead of like waiting till the expansion to do it. But that's just me. What about Adept Raid weapon viability? How about also Adept Trials of Osiris weapon viability? As it stands, crafted base raid weapons are flat out better than Adept Raid weapons. There, they said it. All you fucking haters in the comments going,
Joker, Adept mods, and Adept perks, and
fuck that, fuck you. I was right. And I know there's going to be some people in the comments going, but Joker, everybody thought that that was the case. No, no, friendo. It's almost like there's a segmentum of the Destiny community that just takes the opposite position of whatever I'm saying, regardless of reality. They just hate the fact that I'm critical and they think I'm contrarian for the sake of being contrarian, so they then become contrarian for the sake of being I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I think the Destiny community just wants to be mad most times. Anyways, I digress. Back to the post. As it stands, crafted base raid weapons are flat out better than Adept raid weapons. We are not happy with this current state and have changes coming in Lightfall that give the new Lightfall raid Adept weapons access to enhanced perks. Note that this is not going to be full freeform crafting. It's a little complex, so please look out for more information to come when we're a little closer to Lightfall's release. Future plans for exotic champion weapons. We don't have specific plans to add anti-champion mechanics to existing exotic weapons. The goal of recent additions was to address some obvious holes in the options available, and we're happy with how that worked out. That said, we are building anti-champion functionality into a new exotic weapon in Season 19, and may revisit other weapons later if we see a need. Bungie, I think this is the only thing that the community may categorically agree on. Fuck champions, and not in the good way, please and thank you. Kingsfall weapons have unorthodox perk pools. What are the team's feelings about continuing to do this versus making custom raid perks to differentiate endgame rewards? And yes, I realize I said that word wrong. My mouth simply will not move in a way that makes it come out right. So tough. We have guidelines on how spicy perk pools can be depending on the difficulty of the source of the weapon. For example, Trials of Osiris and raid weapons get to break our standard perk combination rules. The Kingsfall raid weapons push this to an extreme, and we are evaluating whether there's an actual balance issue. Seems okay so far though. I have nothing to add here that I haven't said a million times before about the endgame, but because every video is somebody's first, okay, cool, I guess. Some of the weapons and combinations don't really seem like they're that extreme, but I guess Bungie and I have a very different definition of extreme. Or whatever. But the article continues. We want raid origin traits to make raid weapons feel unique, and may still make one or more perks that are exclusive to a new raid. We intend raid origin traits to make raid weapons feel unique. and may still make one or more perks that are exclusive to a new raid. Starting in Season 19, you will see a small number of non-raid weapons get access to perks from older raids. You know, I hate to sound like a pessimist, being the eternal optimist that I am, but that kinda sounds like the well of ideas is tapped. They're like, we could make 1 or 2 new perks, you know, including the origin trait. I don't know, that just seems kind of like wanting for ideas to me, which is a little worrying. Does Outbreak Perfected truly have persistence, or is it simply its recoil setting like any weapon? Outbreak does not have persistence. It does have 90 recoil direction, where similar weapons are in the 40 to 60 range. But more importantly, it recoils like an auto rifle, not a pulse rifle, which is part of why it feels unique. This was a Destiny 1 bug that we elected to maintain in the Destiny 2 reprisal of the weapon. The cold denial that Xur sold with the accuracy masterwork. Does that actually improve its accuracy? Masterworks provide additional weapon stats to a stat already existing on the weapon. Weapons cannot benefit from stats they don't have, and only bows have an accuracy stat. The short of it is, no, an accuracy masterwork won't have any effect on cold denial. Do stability perks such as rapid hit affect the perfect draw window on bows? Yes! Anything that affects the stability stat on a bow will affect the perfect draw window. How was it for the weapons team to add subclass verbs like headstone, chill clip, and incandescent to weapons? Did you enjoy syncing the two more closely in gameplay and builds? Subclass 3.0 opened a huge amount of design space for weapons. The perks we've already made are just the beginning. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Like, you know, again, this is one of the things that I'm kind of hopeful for, because as we see more build crafting coming online with the game as it evolves, then one, I mean, more options is never bad, but two, we start moving away from this paradigm of redundancy within weapon archetypes. By bonding 3.0 verbs to weapon archetypes, you now give players a reason to go after certain specific weapons, even if they have the exact same stats and 99.9% of the exact same perk pool, just because it synergizes better with the way players want to play, as opposed to one that does the same thing for Arc or Void if they're playing a solar class. Why does only a subset of exotic weapons tie into subclass 3.0? We're not planning to tie every exotic into subclass 3.0 verbs, but over time, we'll add functionality to several of them, starting with those that are strongly themed around damage types. We're currently looking at Season 20 and 21 for passes on this. Now in my mind, exotics like Risk Runner, Sunshot, Ace of Spades all come to mind for this. I think, and I could be mistaken, and I probably am, but I just don't want to go look it up, that they already did something with Thunderlord. So yeah, I could see them incorporating those verbs into those weapons, but it also might make those weapons a little too spicy. Because like, some of these elemental weapons are already really good. Are we going to be able to have multiple perks in each column on crafted weapons at some point in the future? We are investigating this for a possible future release, but it is a more complicated task than it appears at first glance. Nothing in the immediate future, but we will continue looking deeper into this. So yeah, I think having multiple perks per column is a quality of life improvement that weapon crafting desperately needs to have. It doesn't make any sense other than a resource dump to have players craft multiple versions of weapons for something like PvE and PvP or whatever the case may be. It does not make sense to force players to go through all the trouble of crafting it over and over and over and over again, especially if they want to experiment and waste the resources, when you could just have 2 sets of perks. But if there's a limitation, let's hope that Bungie figures it out. How do the extra perks on ritual rank resets actually work? Is there a cap to the benefit? They then go on to say, we have a formula that determines the maximum number of alternative perks based on the number of resets. For example, here's the formula for Valor, and then they show the formula for Valor, and I'm not reading all of that off. It is pretty arcane. Their words, not mine. What this means is that the left column maximum perk count increases at the first and third reset, and the right column increases at the second and fourth reset. The maximum possible is 3 perks in each column, with the actual number randomized between 1 and the current maximum. Yeah, nothing more to say there. Extra perks is always fun. There has been a lot of discussion on perk drop rates recently. I'd really like to know if all perks are truly weighted equally and randomized, or if certain perks, i.e. newer ones, have drop priority. Weapon perks are weighed equally under all circumstances. There are 0 cases in the game where one perk is more likely to roll than another. You know, I want to believe that. I just don't know if I do. Because here's the thing. They can say that all they want, right? They can just say, oh, you know, and there's no reason for them to lie necessarily other than not causing outrage. But at the same time, we've all been there. We've all been grinding for a weapon and like trying to get one perk, and we only need one perk, and we only even ever want one perk, like opening shot on a Trials slug shotgun, and maybe you turn in 20-30 engrams before you get your first opening shot Inquisitor. And you're like, wow, that perk must be really rare on this gun, but apparently not? I don't know. I guess it's just bad luck. You know what? Hey, fuck it. It is all RNG. I'm okay with that. I've heard you're reworking 20 exotics in Season 19. Why so many? We've said we're touching 20 exotics, both buffs and nerfs, but the extent of that varies quite a bit. From a substantial rework, e.g. Lord of Wolves, to a small but impactful change, e.g. Legend of Arceus, Arceus. It's Pokemon all over again. There's a lot to cover, both big and small. Also, a small update to that number. 20 is, out of date, and it's now 26. We always keep the list of under and overused exotics in mind, and decided to take on a big chunk of them in Season 19. What is the criteria for reprising Destiny 1 weapons in Destiny 2? It is important to note that it is impossible to copy and paste Destiny 1 content into Destiny 2 because of the engine changes and the significantly higher bar for art quality on current generation hardware. Any Destiny 1 content has to be rebuilt from scratch. They're basically the same development cost as brand new Destiny 2 weapons, and with some exceptions, we believe players significantly prefer new content over reprised, always at all times. But that's not quite accurate because we know that their system is very modular. So when they talk about the dev cost, I do think that they're overstating it a little bit because we've seen in several Vidocs how they actually build out weapons.
So in Destiny, guns are like swords. Players will find many different weapons as they're playing, with different styles and color and proportions, from sniper rifles, shotguns, to rocket launchers and heavy machine guns. All these guns were built modularly as well, so we could mix and match different parts.
So unless something's changed significantly since the development of Destiny 1, they should, arguably speaking, still have a library of assets that they can mix and match to create weapons. More so if they already have an idea of what they're trying to create. And like I said, unless something's significantly changed since Destiny 1, I do think they're overselling how that ends up working. With that said, I am totally on board and happy and ecstatic that Bungie understands we would rather have new stuff than old, with the exception of a handful of things that are iconic, like Aya Saluna, Last Word, Thorn, stuff like that. Where's my Red Death, Bungie? Where's my Red Death? I know Crimson exists, it's not the same thing. I mean, it basically is, but it's not. They then go on to talk about reprising exotic weapons for raids, and they'll always try to bring back the exotic weapon that is associated with said raid, and the 6 most popular legendary weapons. In instances where there's only 5 or fewer legendary weapons, then they get to make new weapons. They also state that they'll do the same thing if the exotic already exists, which is really interesting because, Outbreak perfected. So in a hypothetical scenario where Wrath of the Machine's exotic already exists, and let's be honest, it would be kind of dumb to bring back Leviathan and then be like, oh yeah, it's Legend of Arceus. No, those are both raids that would need new exotics, so they're going to build new exotics for them, which I'm 100% okay with. I mean, why wouldn't I be? New stuff. I'm always bitching about not having enough new stuff. So when they bring back old stuff or reprise old stuff and they give us new stuff with that old stuff, I'm generally going to be a little happier. They then go on to talk about bows, and I don't care about bows, so this is probably a good time to end this video. Those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Remember to like, but only if you did. Subscribe for more. Feel free to donate to my Patreon if you're feeling particularly generous. And above all else, stay frosty.